So I'm gonna do my topic on resilience and two parenting styles, which is permissive and neglectful. So let's go right into it. Tough times don't last, tough people do. Resilience. I enjoy that quote. I just found it on Google. It really didn't have say who it was by. So what is resilience? Resilience is the capacity of recovering quickly from difficulty. So example would be, if you go through a certain situation, like did you bend or did you break, or like did it break you or did it make you kind of stronger, or did you learn from it? Like you looked at it in more of how of a situation, how can I take this and learn from the situation. Some situations may be different, but generalizing it. Parenting styles. So two parenting styles, like I said, neglectful parenting and permissive parenting. So what is neglectful parenting style? Um, Usually, the a trait would be emotional detachment, limited responsibility. So like the parent, in their minds, they're thinking, if I provide food and shelter for my child, I'm being a parent. But everybody knows there's much more to that. You just can't provide the basic, like food and shelter. Yeah, it's important, but there's so much more. They don't connect emotionally with their children. So that's a trait. We also have two, occupied with their own needs. Sometimes the parent becomes so occupied with their own needs that they're not, they kind of forget about their kid. And that can be either financial, emotional, or social problems that the parent is suffering from, and they just kind of forget about their child. Influence of drugs and abusive substance. So I feel, you sometimes you see those situations where you have a mother or a father, or even sometimes both of the parents, and they're addicted to a substance or a drug. And what's unfortunate is that the child ends up having to take that role on as a parent, and the child can't even be a child. Like she or he has to grow up so quick because the parents being neglectful, because they're the influence of drug and substance abuse. So let's see. Another one is lack of supervision. So lack of supervision. Parents broadly are two types. They don't supervise their children at all whatsoever. They come and go as they please. The parent does not ask the child, have you where have you been, or when are you coming home? They, like I said, the doors open, they come and go as they please. And that's just, you gotta have boundaries. You can't do that. And then there's another one where they keep their child isolated at times, and I feel like that's just as bad, because now you're keeping your child isolated. You're showing traits of a neglectful parent, because you're taking your child and you're isolating them, and that's gonna cause them to be antisocial. They're not gonna want to communicate with people. They're gonna probably shut down. And like, just picture being isolated from the world. It's not right. So lack of supervision kind of gets separated into categories. They supervise or they just isolate their child. It's just crazy. But it's out there. So, and they don't express love. The child doesn't feel the worthiness of the parent. The child feels like, am I worthy? Why don't my parents love me? It's just very detrimental to the child. And you got to show your kid you love them. And lack of expectations. I feel like lack of expectations is like really, really important, only because you're pretty much like teaching your child, there's much more out there in the world. Like my mom never once told me, Reina, go to school, I expect you to go to school, or Reina, I expect you to return home tonight. Like it just it's just unfortunate when you can't even provide expectations or motivations or goals for your kid. So consequences of neglectful parenting, usually the men, they grow up, not strong-minded. They deal with situations without thinking them thoroughly. Girls, you know, they become emotionally weak without their father. Usually results in unsuccessful relationships. You know, they just want that constant love and the absence of a mother. Mothers help child build identity, and they have a huge role in teaching their kids. Excuse me. They have a huge role in teaching their kids life skills, and you know, this leaves the child unprepared to face real life situations. You know, for example, the child, if your mom can't provide you the basic needs, you know, how are you going to go out into the real world and face simple situations, you know, because your mom was neglectful and you were unfortunate to not learn basic skills. So consequences on a child, you know, when they're dealing with neglectful parenting is, you know, they're feeling unloved. Child becomes unprepared. The child usually can't follow rules. Child may fall into a drug addiction program, drug addiction, sorry, may fall into a drug addiction. And then taking care of yourself. So the child has to take care of themselves. So they get robbed from their childhood. You know, they don't get experience the norm of a childhood. And then my experience my experience with a neglectful parent was my mom. You know, there's times where I would come home and there would be weeks and months where she wouldn't cook. So, you know, I know it was up to myself to feed myself and my younger sister. She never sat down with me and like helped me with any homework assignment or read books and simple things like that. Never. And then most importantly, my mom never had expectations for me. Never. Like she just, it was like, do what you want with your life. It's in your own hands. I'm gonna go into permissive parenting. Permissive parenting, the permissive parents tend to become their child's friend instead of the parent. You know, lack of authority. They believe in equal roles for the parent and the child, so it's like they both kind of have an equal say-so, which is not, oh, my battery is telling me it's low, sorry. So yeah, like I said, equal roles, you know, the child and parent. The consequence of parenting a child is the child becomes usually selfish or bossy. The child doesn't know how to respect others or put other needs into perspective, can become manipulative or high risk for becoming antisocial. You know, permissive parenting. So my experience with the permissive parent was, again, my mom. You know, I feel like she was way more neglectful, but at the same time she would show traits of permissive, because when I was 13, you know, she offered me drugs and like, you're trying to be my friend, you know. And at that, I was 13 years old, and at that time, you know, I thought, well, maybe I can bond with my mom, maybe, you know, we can become closer, which is crazy, but yeah, it happened. So resilience, back to resilience. Finishing this up. Sorry for the interruptions. Doing this outside, enjoying the weather. Can be learned. So resilience, I feel like it can be learned, and it can come from an intrinsic motivation. But I feel like it can also become subconscious, because when I was younger, like, I used to think, like, I know I don't want to be like my mom. Like, I want to be a better mom than her. And like, I had no idea how my process was working. And now that I'm older, I'm able to understand, like, wow, I was resilient. I'm a resilient child. Like, I've been a resilient child. And I feel like resilience can be learned. Like I said, it can be learned, or it can come like within yourself. And I found online that American Psychological Association has 10 steps to become more resilient. One of them is make connections, you know, through family and friends, and accepting help. And, you know, even though you may suffer from having a neglectful parent or having a neglectful father, you know, if you make connections and they're there to help you, you know, that's awesome. Avoid seeing crisis as overwhelming problems. You know, you gotta change how you interpret and respond to stressful events. You can't just let it take over you. You gotta